and we're back in record time.
Welcome to Voices of Harpswell, hosted by the Harpswell's Bicentennial Project of the American Grange, with funding by the Maine Bicentennial Commission. In this series of interviews with people from all geographic sections of Harpswell and from all ages and interests, we hope to compile a picture of Harpswell today in this tumultuous year of 2020, the 200th anniversary of Maine's statehood. Today, we have with us a person who can compare life in the 60s in Harpswell with life today in Harpswell. Will you tell us your name and when you were born?
My name is Dave Sparks, and I was born in the fall of 1961.
All right. And you were on the neck?
Yes, yeah.
So what was it like growing up? What do you remember early on as a kid growing up on the neck?
Well, I don't remember hardly anything the first few years, but then when my memory started coming around, I was at the first house I lived in now is in the back field, just south of the firehouse. People will remember Fred Perry moved the house back into the field, and his daughter lives there now. So they busted me out of the hospital in Brunswick, and they brought me home there. And then a few years later, we moved to house two houses up from the Basin Point Road. I think the Newbergs live there now, and so I got to walk to school at the Harpswell Elementary School, and then as a early teen, we moved up to two houses north of where Mitchell Field entrance is now, which I believe is the house that you live in.
That's right, yeah.
So I got to ride the bus to Mount Ararat from the Newberg's house and from your house all the way through my high school career. And you know, growing up in Harpswell, you had to entertain yourself. I would ride bikes. Usually I rode them south. For some reason, going north was too far, but I could ride all the way to Potts Point with no problem. We played ball at the ball field for hours and hours. I mean, even if there was only 5 or 6 of us, we'd somehow figure out a way to play a game. And so you were outside all the time. You didn't have to worry about getting run over or kidnapped or anything.
So a lot less traffic.
A lot less traffic. In fact, for a period of time, we had a tandem bike, and I would get on the tandem bike by myself, and I would ride it down to Potts Point and pick up my friend, and we'd pedal around, the two of us. But many times I would catch him not pedaling on the back, so it was riding for both of us. But
So when you went down to Potts Point, did you just kind of poke around all the rocks and stuff? Or?
yeah, no, we'd get on the bike. First we'd go over to the Given House and we'd get some French fries or something, or maybe a cheeseburger, and then we'd ride all around from Potts Point up to Basin Point, Ash Point. We did the points. I don't know, Stover's Point, but again, we never would ride north for whatever reason. I don't know, the people up there weren't trustworthy or something, I don't know. But that was just an easier time growing up. There was so much less stress. You'd get up in the morning, go outside, and you know, a lot of times it would be calling your mother and saying, "Can I stay over at so-and-so's for supper tonight?" or whatever. And you know, it was always seemed to be fine. And if you didn't get home early enough, they'd come and get you in the cars because it was too dark to ride your bike. So that only happened a few times, but it would happen.
But your mom, when you had to call your mom, like if you had to see her during the day, she was at the school, you said, right?
Yeah, she was the secretary at the West Harpswell Elementary School when I was going there.
So you couldn't get away with much.
Well, she followed me. I didn't realize because then she took a job at the superintendent's office when I went to Mount Ararat. So she was the secretary for the superintendent of SAD 75, so she was just right down the road. And then later in life, when I worked at Bath Iron Works, she was the executive secretary for Bill Haggett down at Bath Iron Works when I started working there. So it's like I never figured it out till later in life that she was keeping an eye on me.
Definitely keeping an eye on you.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Well, so how was it transitioning from West Harpswell School to Mount Ararat? Was that like a big change?
Well, one day they took 6 of us up to Cone School in Topsom and wanted us to experience going to school in a big school, which was much bigger than West Harpswell. I think at the time we had 8 grades and we had maybe 100 kids in the entire school. So we went as 6th graders, a few of us friends. They took us as a group of friends so we wouldn't be scared. And we went to Cone School, and there was a lot more kids, a lot more activity. And right away, one of the kids called us clam diggers and got hauled out of the class down to the principal's office for some learning, I guess. But it was interesting because we got one day at Cone School, and that was supposed to prepare us to go to Mount Ararat. And we were the first class that went from 7th grade through 12th. They all were in the same school at that time. So we went from 100 kids in the entire school to 200 and something kids in your 7th grade class. So we weren't ready.
7th grade. So
Yeah, we weren't
also,
ready.
you're only like 12, 13 years old at that point. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's hard.
yeah. They had junior high in one half and high school in the other half, and they scheduled it so they wouldn't be roaming the halls at the same time. But there was a lot of people there. Well, for us, I wasn't used to it. But
Did they keep the Harpswell kids in the same homeroom?
No,
So you were all
no,
spread
yeah,
out. So
they
you
split
didn't
us
know
up.
any kids necessarily in some
yeah,
classes.
there was always a few people that I knew, but I made a couple of friends right away. I mean, believe it or not, I was incredibly shy when I was a kid, so meeting new people was overwhelming. Once I became friends with you, then everything was fine. But you know, that initial startup of a relationship is, and it still continues to be difficult. But a lot of people don't believe me when I tell them that. Oh well.
Yeah. So people always present differently than they are. That's
Correct.
how it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
But was there anything you really liked about Mount Ararat? Were there some classes you liked or some activities?
Yeah, German class. I got to go to Germany. I was 16 years old. We did a school trip, and it was 2 weeks. We went to Lucerne, Switzerland, Salzburg, Austria, Oberammergau, Germany, and Munich, Germany. And I was ingenious young boy because we didn't have a lot of money, and so I figured out how am I going to get there. Well, I had mowed lawns and done stuff, so I had some money. But the whole 2-week trip cost $799. I remember specifically. So I decided that if my grandparents each chipped in $100 and my parents chipped in $200, that means I only had to come up with $400, and which I had in the bank. So I presented that to everybody, and they all, I don't know who actually came up with the money, but we got the $800, and away I went with several. It was juniors and seniors that got to go on these class trips. So I think there might have been 15 or so of us. I forget everybody that went.
So you didn't stay with families. You were actually
No,
touring.
we had one chaperone. That was our German teacher, who Linda Millay at the time. She got married later on, Linda Libby, but she wasn't that much older than us, so her spirit was really young, and we just had a wonderful time.
Oh, what a great
It was,
trip.
yeah, it gave me
But
the
so
bug to travel.
You saved $400 from mowing lawns?
Yeah.
That's wonderful. So did you mow lawns all along the neck?
I had a handful of lawns along the neck, but I had to ride my bike to get to all of them, where my buddy had lawns down on Hurricane Ridge, so he could roll out of bed at 11 o'clock, mow 5 lawns, be done by noontime, and I'd have just enough time to ride my bike down and do 1 lawn, so I was always a bit jealous of that setup, but I didn't have anything to spend it on, and birthday money and Christmas money and whatever. I mean, as a kid, I just piled it in the bank because I had the old bank book that they gave you every time you made a deposit or a withdrawal. It was printed out, and I'd always be excited to look at the. It's like so different today.
Well,
but-
what a great way to learn how to save learn that as a kid and have a reward that was something you really wanted that much that
Right,
early.
and it
That's
gave me the bug to travel, and I've traveled a lot since. So I'm grateful for that because I've got to see the world. And
well, tell us about that.
well, started when my friend and I were both fairly recently divorced fathers, and so we went on vacation a couple of different years together, and we went to places like the Grand Canyon and Yellowstone and Alaska. And so growing up in Harpswell and appreciating nature and beauty, I mean, Harpswell is probably as beautiful a place in the entire world as exists. To go see these other places that were every bit as beautiful, but in a completely different way, and talking to the people and eating the food and trying to understand the culture of where you're visiting, it's like the most important thing you can do for yourself. I used to think it was kind of selfish, but then I heard somebody famous say the most important investment you can ever give yourself is to travel. So I started looking at it differently, and I appreciate it much more. And so I traveled, and then I gone to see my cousin in Thailand a bunch of times because he's lived there for almost 30 years. And so to go get immersed in a completely different culture in a different part of the world and see the world through different eyes and ears, and the discussions that I have on the beaches with people from Europe and the questions they ask me about what is wrong with you Americans, and it's sometimes very difficult to justify what is wrong with us, but it's a healthy thing to have a different perspective.
Oh, absolutely. Well, so when you got out of Mount Ararat, did you start working at Bath Iron Works right then?
No. I went to University of Southern Maine, and I got a Bachelor of Arts in psychology, which now people are wary of talking to me sometimes because of that. But that's okay, because it taught me how to listen, and I'm very curious about people naturally anyways, so it helps me understand that you can't really ever figure anybody out because there's just so many variables. But if you can get to where they are in their place, you may be able to help them go someplace where they can get appropriate help. And that's kind of what I've made a habit of doing for the rest of my life. But after that, I went into, I had a direct sales job for 6 years, which, believe me, psychology is the perfect major for a direct sales job.
Somebody shy usually hates that. By then you were
The
shy.
paradox of who I became.
Yeah.
Because later on I became a singer in a band, and I do a lot of public speaking, and so if I'm a character that's projecting out to a group of people, then I'm not a shy little boy. If I'm meeting you for the very first time and there's nobody else around, then I tend to revert back to my introverted ways. So it's one of those things you learn how to cope with, and I love coming alive and love to be entertaining, and it just, that's who I really want to be down deep. So
Well, did you practice any of that when you were at West Harpswell? Like, were you ever in plays or at Mount Ararat?
well, no, I did sing in the choir at the Elijah Kellogg Church. My Aunt Eva was the choir teacher for a while. She was the organist at the church for a long time. My mother and grandparents all sang in the choir as adults, and they tried to teach me piano lessons, and I just was terribly resistant to any of the music when I was little because I wanted to go outside and play ball or something. So I wished I had, that's one of my regrets. I wished I'd stayed with the piano when I was young, because it would be so helpful now. However, I didn't really do too much as a kid. But I have fond memories of, like, the youth group at the Elijah Kellogg Church, and of Sunday school, and of the choir, of the kids that we did it together, because we were all, every family knew each other, and all our parents knew all of the kids, and it was just fun to go. No matter where you went, you were safe, and you were with people that cared about you, and it was just a great place to grow up.
There were a lot of kids, right? Not like now.
Yeah, there was 100 of us, all down at the school at one time. So there wasn't really that many kids. Not like a neighborhood in, Topsom.
But like today, there's not 100 kids.
No, I know. It's funny. The population has changed. Well, nobody used to want to come to Harpswell because it's so far out of the way. My God, you've got to drive 20 minutes before you can even start going anywhere.
No, everybody wants to come.
Everybody wants to come down because it's so far away.
It's funny
and
how
it's
a
so
bad thing
beautiful.
becomes a good thing.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, and watching that change as a young person, you get to see things you didn't want to see. All the families that have property here that have had to sell out their land just because they can't afford to pay the taxes on it. And so all these parcels of land that have disappeared, and they're all outsiders that are there. And some of them are very nice people, don't get me wrong, but it just feels bad because, we have ownership in this town this is one of the first towns settled, or 1750s, all right? And my ancestor was kidnapped and brought over here because he knew how to build boats, and wound up marrying a local girl and starting, that part of my family here. So, I have blood that goes all the way back to the 1700s. I don't have the money to stave off the temptation of selling out, but I never would. I would go to my grave without a penny before I sell one parcel of land out of the family at this point, which I don't have any more anyways. I've got 2 small spots, but and it used to be down at the camp on the West Shore where I stay most of the time in the summer. We were the only people down there. It was just woods. And now I have, these mansions next to me with, animals and dogs that bark all night and stuff. And it's like, I don't mind the ducks and the pigs and the goats and all that. But when there's a dog outside that just wants to be pet and he's barking at 10 o'clock at night, it's like, take your dog in.
Yeah.
And it's
right.
like, it echoes across the whole cove.
Yeah, but so talk more about the camps. So when you were a kid growing up, you would go to the camps in the summer too?
Yeah, we had a camp on the east shore, which there's actually painting over the sink right here at this television studio of that building. And it was an old boathouse that got converted into a camp. And the tide actually comes under the camp at high tide. It's on the ledge. So at low tide, you're on ledge and you get out and there's mud flats under the ladder. But at high tide, you could jump off of the porch and you could hear the waves lapping up under the camp as you were trying to go to bed at night. And so you never had a problem sleeping there because it just lapped, that sound of the ocean just put you out. And when you would wake up in the morning, my grandmother would be squeezing orange juice, freshly squeezed, and I'd sit out on the glassed-in porch, and the water is just as flat as a mirror, and the sun's just barely up over Orr's Island, and the color and the sounds and the smells, and it was just magical. I mean, I've never been in a building like that before or since in my life. It is
You're
just
one with the water, really.
yeah. Exactly. And then my other grandparents on my maternal side had a camp on the west shore, which is just behind the Baptist church. And you go down there and it's still an outhouse and a hand pump. There's no electricity, never will be. And the water's warm to go swimming over there. So if you want to go fishing, you go over on that side. If you want to go swimming, you go over on that side. I could ride my bike from one to the other in 5 to 10 minutes. So if the wind was blowing too hard from the east, I'd go over to the west shore, vice versa, whichever. And again, you think as a kid that everybody has this, but no, not so much. It's like nobody has this. And I just had no idea how fortunate I was as a child growing up here, because it didn't matter. You could find the place you wanted to be, and batting rocks on the beach. In fact, the ledge in front of the camp on the east shore, there's a high part in the left field section. It kind of dwindled down to a lower side, and it almost looks like the Fenway Park wall. In my mind as a kid, I was just Rico Petrocelli hitting rocks off the Green Monster in my head. And so it was just magical. And then the house you live in, I used to pitch tennis balls against the barn door for hours. I mean, hours. I'd be out there every day, just throwing. Yep. Yeah. Well, yeah. I could throw a wicked fastball.
Yeah. Well, and the trees were. I mean, even though you're not old, I know.
Yeah.
But the trees have grown up so much in the back.
Yeah.
But I bet that was much more open, right? So
no, actually, that was fairly wooded in. The field to the north, that's where I'd throw the football and stuff like that. As we had our garden over there. And, my mother would send me out to pick peas, and I'd come in and my belly would be full, but the bowl wouldn't be, because fresh peas. Well, it's like, as a kid, why would I bring them inside for everybody else? I can just eat them now.
Well, were there other kids in that exact neighborhood to play with at that point, or that's why you were going down to Potts Point?
Yeah. When I lived at the Newberg's house, Kathleen McGee lived right across the road from me. We went to kindergarten together, and we were best of friends up until, girls got to be oogie, and then. But she was the only neighbor I had that was a playmate for my whole life. The rest of them I had to travel to go see, or they had to come to my house, which, again, 3 miles or whatever, but still.
But when you were a kid, the fuel farm was operating, so you would still have truck traffic, right? And you would still have some of the people related to the fuel farm. Was there a lot of noise connected with that other than occasional trucks?
No, the worst part of living at your house was on Sundays when they'd set the dump on fire, and it's always a southeasterly breeze, and so you get the dump smoke come right through the kitchen window, and it's like, okay, gotta go somewhere else, because.
Where was the dump?
Right across from where the firehouse is. You start going down that road, and you take a little left, and it was where that pond is down that road. That was where the dump was. Yeah, and Stanley Merriman and his son David. Well, Stanley would coax David in to set the dump on fire so they didn't have so much to deal with, because if it burnt, then you could push the ashes over into the corner instead of this other stuff. So, yeah, not to name any names, but they're related to me. I'm a Merriman too, so.
They can't get away from it.
No.
No matter what.
No, and actually we're related to Winston Churchill, so if you go back far enough, you know.
Pretty good.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, so after school, you would play ball with your friends, and you would hang out in the woods, and you would do other stuff. But did you go into town much? Did you go to movies and stuff as a kid, or was that not something that the Harpswell kids did?
Not until we got our driver's licenses,
Yeah.
because you were relying on your parents to take you everywhere. I played youth hockey, okay, as a kid. So my friend, again, down at Potts Point, his mother was one of the bus drivers, Mrs. Estes, Di Estes. Guard was my friend. So Guard's mother or my mother on Saturday morning would drive us up to Brunswick to the Dayton Arena, which is now no longer. And we'd play at 5 o'clock in the morning or 6 o'clock in the morning or whatever. So, you know, that was a chore. Well, luckily for me, my grandmother Sparks, we had a plumbing shop on Longfellow Avenue, so we could stay there overnight Friday night and then just walk over to the arena when we got old enough to do that. And then either way, after we got done playing hockey, we'd walk over to my grandmother's house to wait for the ride home, where we watched cartoons and then candlepin bowling and roller derby and wrestling. And once wrestling was over, it was time to go home. But we started going to movies when we started being able to drive ourselves.
Yeah.
And the first, let's see, I wasn't old enough to drive, but my sister drove us up to watch, I believe, Rocky. It might not have been. It doesn't matter what the movie is, either Rocky or Star. It was a big, big movie. When we went in, it was Halloween, and lightning hit the movie theater and knocked the power out. And so we went all the way to Brunswick to go to the movies, and the cussed power got knocked out by lightning. We got free tickets to go to another movie, but sent home empty-handed. Like,
On Halloween night, too.
And you had to go to Cook's Corner. You didn't have the mountain road. You had to go up to Brunswick, you know. So to go to Bailey Island back then was like, okay, you get all day, because it's a 45-minute ride anyways, you know, from one point to the other.
Yeah, it really made a difference. Well, like when you went to Mount Ararat, was there a big difference between the kids from the islands and the kids from the Neck at that point?
Oh, those kids from the islands were unruly. God.
Really unruly kids. Huh?
Yeah, no, kids are kids. Even the Bodenham kids were okay, you know, and it's like they were way up north picking peas. What are they all about? But, you know, and you get to be friends with them. I mean, I have friends from all of the different towns, you know. And one of my best friends through high school he lived in Topsom, and
So everybody mixed it up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. We got along a lot better than they thought.
Well, and then when you were in southern Maine, did you find that too? Was there sort of prejudice from the kids that weren't from Maine or from the cities? Or
Nah,
everybody mixed it up?
Yeah, I didn't notice any of that in college. We were all buddies and friends. I had friends from Connecticut and friends from Madawaska, and they'd leave at the same time to go home, and the kid from Connecticut would get home before the kid from Madawaska. So I'm like, but yeah, it didn't really matter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so then you left Harpswell after.
Yeah, I lived in several different towns. I lived in Gardner for a while. I lived in South Portland for a while. I lived in Saco for a while. And eventually in Bodenham, and then came back to Harpswell. So I didn't ever live that far away, but you know, I was a long period of time where I wasn't in Harpswell, so I missed a lot. So like through the middle 1980s into the 2005-ish era, like a 20-year block, I would only come to Harpswell, go to one of the camps or something quick, and then leave and go. So I wasn't interacting with the locals for that period of time for quite a while, and
But you did
kind of
keep
lost
your
touch.
family's camps.
Yes,
So
right.
you still have.
Well, my grandmother's Sparks camp is gone from the family, but my grandmother Minot's camp, that's the one I stay in most of the summer, and you know, that wound up being my chore to take care of, which is probably the best chore I've ever had in my life. Although it's a lot of work I got to do to it, but that'll never end. I mean, the camp was built in the early 1930s, and they added a bedroom on in the 70s when my grandparents retired and came up here full time. and they bought the Guernsey Villa and moved in there, and that again has wound up, partially my caretaking responsibilities. So I summer at the Guernsey Villa. I mean, winter in the Guernsey Villa and summer at the camp.
Well,
So,
because there's so many fabulous postcards of Guernsey Villa and so many descriptions of people coming to stay there.
yeah,
So,
and people
but
were
so
born
how did
there.
that come about? Because it was part of your family too.
Well, my grandparents, when they got married, they honeymooned there. And just by chance, when they were looking for a house in Harpswell to purchase in 1969, that house was available for sale.
And so they already had a good feeling.
So they said, oh, we have to buy that house. So they bought the house, and they turned the room that they honeymooned in was their master bedroom now.
Oh,
And
nice.
so that's where I had many Thanksgiving and Christmas dinners and family. And we always seemed to have somebody from outside the family come in as a guest. Either it was a new boyfriend or girlfriend of somebody's, or just a friend of somebody's, or somehow there was always a new person there. And my grandmother had this little small ceramic beautiful dish hand painted that she would always make hard sauce and put the hard sauce in. And whoever was new, we always would put up to telling my grandmother as the dessert was served, once that dish came in front of them, they had to say, and it had to be exactly this way, oh my, what a pretty little dish. And my grandmother would get all flustered and know that she was, so it was just the cutest thing. It was just a silly family tradition that,
Oh, it's a great family
yeah,
tradition.
so every time we see that, it's a pretty little dish.
Pretty little dish.
Yeah.
That's great. Most people don't even know hard sauce anymore. So.
Yeah, oh, I know.
So.
Yeah, I just had an argument with a friend of mine on what hot sauce really was. And, well, not really an argument, but.
Right, but you won. 'Cause you did. Yeah, but
Well, I always
food's
do.
an interesting thing too. Like, do you notice different things like the food you fix now versus the food like you had at your mom's? Do you see a lot of difference with Harpswell food from then to now?
Yeah, unfortunately, my mom, she was very talented at a lot of things, but cooking wasn't her favorite thing to do. So some of the stuff we got, she was experimenting with recipes out of magazines or whatever and that kind of stuff. But like our standby always was we'd have hot dogs and beans on Saturday night and pancakes and bacon on Sunday night. And we did that almost exclusively through my whole childhood. So, there was traditional, the hot dogs and beans were, I think, very traditional for a lot of us up here. But, it's so much different in how everybody prepares food now. You're not, there's so many different ingredients and so many different cuisines that people are, and I love to cook, so I'm not scared of any of it. I'll put together all kinds of stuff.
Because of your travels, you probably cook Thai, you do pad Thai as well. You do hot dogs and beans, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. The Thai cooking really expanded my my palate as far as spices and herbs go, because the food over there is just so intense and delicious, and we focus on steak and potatoes or whatever over here, where if they're having steak, it's cut very, very small pieces and it's in the middle of all the vegetables with all the sauces and everything, and so it's very minor part, and it's the flavor of everything that is the major part. And so, and the presentation, they have to have so many different colors and everything has to be presented very, very well. And so it really has helped expand my ability to prepare for others if we're going to have
it's such
some.
a healthy cuisine too,
Yeah,
right?
it's
So that's
true. They're so
always
much leaner over there. Yeah, much.
great. Well, so you don't do a garden now.
No, I'm too busy doing other stuff.
Yeah.
So I haven't ever done a vegetable garden on my own. That was something that every family did,
Well, and you were picking those peas as a kid. You probably get kind of tired of it too.
No, God, no. I can go to someone else's garden and pick peas all day, but the planting and the weeding and all of that, I just don't have time to dedicate to it. But I love some fresh radishes with dirt still on the skin. Sharpens your teeth, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so how much of your time now? Do you spend all your time in Harpswell, or are you also working other places outside of town?
No, I spend when I'm not working, because I work at Bath Iron Works. Oops, and some things up. So I've got my regular job, except we're on strike now, so we have a vote coming up this Friday.
The vote's this week.
Yep.
So somehow I thought it was this past weekend. So
Yep.
you're still off.
Still.
Yeah. How have you seen labor change since you've been there? Have you?
Well, it's interesting because I've been part of a labor union for 30 years now, and I see the importance of the labor union for the company that we work for. Because if they were left to be able to manage without anybody holding them accountable, that business would have shut down by now, and all these jobs would be lost. So the workers are local people that all their money is coming home to local families, and we all have a vested interest in our communities and being protected through the labor union, so they can't just fire me because they don't like me. They have to have a good reason, or they can't lay me off because they don't like me. It's a seniority-based thing. It gives the workers a lot more protection than they would have if they were at-will employees. And the better we do in our contracts, the better all of labor does in this area for their wages and their benefits, because if you let the greedy corporations keep all the money, the people that are working will never have anything. So it's we're under attack. The public sentiment when we were on strike in 2000, I only had one negative reaction the entire time I picketed in the year 2000. And this year we have mostly good support, but every day someone gives me a thumbs down or something.
Oh, really?
I had somebody holler and scream at me that I was the reason that people can't get jobs in this state. We had somebody go by in a Tesla tell one of our picketers that he was, I forget the term, but a leech on society, I think. So here's someone driving a Tesla calling a working man a leech on society. So the perception has changed, I believe, a little bit, and we have to stand up a lot more for ourselves. And but if they crush the labor union and we go away, then that business will fold, and this economy in this state will be devastated. So I would hope people would realize that, get their emotions out of it, get the politics out of it, look at for what it really is. Because we're valuable. We build the most impressive surface combatants in the world, and they're vital for the way the world is going today. Yeah. So have your skilled workers that know what they're doing, give them what they need and let them do it.
Oh, I totally agree with you. But what do you think is going to happen with the vote?
Well, not in the business of predicting.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, it'll be good. I mean, COVID has influenced the strike. Mm-hmm. COVID has influenced everybody's lives in Harpswell, and it's been really interesting to do these interviews. The ways that people have reacted to COVID, and in some cases, it's actually helped some people financially, and it's helped bring out some real goodness in people. And so, I'm curious what you think. How has COVID changed your life?
Well, it's really an interesting question. I haven't really thought about how it's changed my life. I'm reacting still. I've made some decisions in the last few months that I never would have made if we weren't in a pandemic. It has made me, at first I was terrified because of the unknown, and I didn't want to get it because I didn't want to put people I knew at risk. The more I understand it, the more I'm saying, okay, I think I can protect myself if I'm wearing my mask, if I'm staying away from people, and I do certain behaviors. I think I can protect myself. But I'm still astonished at the people that think their right to whatever they think is right is more important than the right to protect society. And that shows me how selfish they are. And so I think a lot of selfish people are exposing themselves. And it makes me see people in a different light than I may have seen them before. And I'm trying not to judge, but it's hard not to when, my right to be ignorant is more important than your right for survival. I just will never wrap my head around that. So I'm hoping that we can quell the second wave here in this country. I think our country has done a terrible job right now, compared to, again, like my cousin lives in Thailand. They have under 100 deaths in Thailand so far. Yes, there's a lot of misery going on, and the poverty is widespread. And but you got to prioritize. Do you want to have money in your pocket, or do you want to be able to spend that money because you're alive? So, and maybe I won't die, but the closest people in my life could die from it. And so I want to be cautious. I want to be careful, but I guess we're just going to ride this out. It's going to be a while.
gonna be a while.
It's going to be a while before, before the other end comes around.
Well, if you go back to, if this thing does pass, if the vote does pass the vote, how soon will you go back to work?
I haven't seen the strike settlement agreement, but I believe they're going to give us up to 2 weeks to come back. So they don't want everybody coming back the very first day because that will overwhelm them because they're not ready for it.
Right.
So I think I will take the 2 weeks because I kind of need a vacation from my strike.
Yeah, right.
Sounds silly, but I've been so busy.
Yeah, right.
So busy.
But you'll still be doing upkeep on Guernsey, and you'll still be doing camp, and you'll still be doing all that.
I'll still be looking at the list as to what I need to do. Maybe
Yeah.
we'll start making some action towards getting it done. But yeah, I'll have some time to start doing some of that, and at least I won't have to mow the lawn as regularly now that it's all burnt up. But
Oh, so nature took care of that for
Yeah.
you. Well, do you fish at camp a lot?
no, I have a kayak, and when I get out in the kayak, I always forget my fishing pole, and I see a school of fish. But it's like, whatever.
Hey, these days, that might be okay.
But yeah, since this year, the way things are going, the kayak is in the water right now, and when I swim, I'm just swimming inside the seaweed in the shallows because the water is so warm. I've never seen water this warm. But my eyes are weary, and I'm not acting like a seal. I will not act like a seal no matter what. You won't even be able to pay me to act like a seal. So, and I love to act like things. So
Yeah, no seal.
no seals, or schools of fish. But it's just weird because every time I hear a siren going on over the islands or something now, I'm like, uh-oh. It's like, it's crazy.
Yeah. Do you ever work with the fire department over here?
No, I haven't.
'Cause you don't have any time.
Yeah, I could be a driver for the ambulance crew for the daytime when I'm not working would be the only thing I could really ever line up for, which I've contemplated doing at some point because you always need someone that can drive. But no, my family used to be in the fire department years ago, but I never got into it for
Yeah.
whatever reason.
Yeah, well, things change. Too.
Mhm.
Everything changes. Well, you mentioned kids before. Are your kids nearby, or are they far away?
No, my daughter lives in Brunswick.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so she's very close, and I have a couple of stepkids that live a little further away, but not too far. And yeah, you think you'd see your daughter more when she lives right in Brunswick, but she's so busy and I'm so busy, so it's like still only see each other every now and again. But just knowing that I can swing into her driveway anytime is nice.
That's really
Yeah.
nice.
Oh yeah. Yeah. She humbles me. She's quite the person. It's like, how did this kid get to be so together at such an early age? Because at her age, my mind was swimming. I was still not mature and grown up. And she bought her own house by herself before she turned 30 in the state of Maine.
Yeah,
It's like, that's pretty impressive
that's
to me.
very impressive.
So,
yeah.
yeah. So I'm very
Different
hard.
times, though. It really is different times.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hard time to grow up in some ways. Sometimes I think it was easier in mid 20th century.
Mm.
Well, like you were saying,
There was so much
stuff
less
was easy.
chaos going on. You could be a kid. Now you're bombarded with so many things that it's hard just to be a kid because your mind is processing things that we never had to deal with. I wouldn't even know what a smartphone was back in 1970 anything.
Right.
So
Yeah, good and bad in that. Right?
yeah, technology, better life through technology.
Yeah,
Not so sure
exactly.
about that.
Yeah, well, what else do you think about Harpswell? I mean, you're saying how, that it's changed because, like, camp is surrounded by mega mansions and noise, but what else has changed? What else do you see different? I mean, because there's so much that's beautiful here that's still so beautiful.
Well, that I think is what I'd rather focus on is what hasn't changed because I can't think of a place more better for photography. If you have a camera and you come to Harpswell, you go anywhere in town and you're going to have an incredible photographic opportunity. You just are. It doesn't matter whether you're on the water or on the land. There's so many hidden gems. There's so many little small coves. There's just looking at the lighting, hitting the ledge at 3 o'clock versus 7 o'clock. It's always changing. The tide is never the same. The sunsets are never the same, but they're all so similar and they bring you the same feelings and the sound of the water and the smell of the seaweed and And all of those things will never change. So no matter what happens around Harpswell, the land, the ledges, what makes Harpswell Harpswell will be the constant that is here for us to enjoy. And what my chore is now is to enjoy what is the same and what brings me happiness and joy, and ignore all the summer complaints and the people that want to come in and make us better and that kind of thing.
Although this year I got to say it's way better than other years have been. I mean, there's a plus of COVID.
Well, during the beginning of the pandemic, I sat on the sun porch of the Guernsey Villa, and I listened for cars, like I used to do when I was a kid. And it would be 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and then you'd hear a car, and you could hear the car from way down the road because it's the only car on the road. And I remember as a kid going, okay, who's that? Oh, that's so-and-so. And you'd recognize the car before it would get by you. And then there, sure enough, there goes so-and-so down the road. So it was nostalgic because it brought me back to a time when there was just so little traffic. And it was eerily calming. It was like, wow, this Harpswell Road is nothing but cars all day, every day. And now for that period of time, it wasn't a long period, but for a few weeks, barely any cars on the road.
Absolutely true. Yeah.
So that was nostalgic. It really did remind me of sitting on the porch.
Have you ever been a bird watcher? Been interested in the birds?
I wish I had the ability to identify all the bird calls, because down at camp every day it is nothing but birds all day. And to watch and listen to them and just sit there and close your eyes and hear all the bird stuff going on. Even the crows. I mean, I've come to love crows. They're so smart. I watched a show on how smart they are, and it's just I'm a big crow fan now because they are so intelligent. The first thing in the morning when they're talking to each other, maybe not so much, but they got their purpose, so leave them be. But just like the hummingbirds, watching hummingbirds, they're so cool. They're just so cool. And the terns when they're fishing, they're just right in the water, and it's right in the water, and the way they squawk, and just the energy, and watching osprey fishing last night, and they dive in catching the fish on board, and they fly over your head, and you see the fish always looking so surprised because he's out of the water and his eyes are all open. And,
it sounds to me like you're really good at that.
Oh yeah, well, and I was down at Basin Point the other day, and a bald eagle flew right by, and he was within 30 feet of me. I mean, just soaring, looking around, and it's like, that's close. To see a bald eagle that close was really cool.
Really cool.
Yeah.
Well, we've seen a lot more songbirds, and I don't know. We've been in our house 5 years, and it's been sort of more. And since we're retired, we do see them more. But I do think there are more birds this year.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it's because in the spring there was less pollution, or I don't know what accounts for it.
I don't know.
It does seem a lot more.
But they're very happy, and they seem to be mostly plump and full, so they're having a good year.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
They are. Well, you probably had all kinds of animals in camp too. You probably had not only the squirrels and the chipmunks, but fox.
Oh yeah, and every once in a while I come home and I gotta wait for the porcupine because he's in the wheel rut and he can't go very fast and he can't go right or left because it's too much work. So you have to wait for him to waddle through. It's like I just want, and you get hung up in traffic on the camp road by a porcupine.
That's great. That's a Harpswell story.
Oh, absolutely. My daughter said she was coming out of there the other night. She saw 3 baby raccoon. And I see deer in the field all the time. There's turkeys around every day. It's like, the turkeys will walk right through the yard. They just, I've had ducks walking down my path.
But now that's new, right? You don't remember turkeys from when you were a kid,
No,
right?
they were never around when I was a kid. That's the last 10, 15 years. They've started making
so
come back.
So they're newcomers that are very welcome, I think. Yeah.
No, depends on who you are. You can find someone that'll grumble about them. I can guarantee it. But, well, they bring the ticks with them.
Oh.
But they eat ticks, so I don't know.
Quite a while.
Yeah, I know, because ticks weren't around when I was a kid either.
So you could go out and play all day and you never had
Never saw a tick. Yeah, never. Now
How
every
were
day.
mosquitoes when you were a kid compared to now?
Well, it's funny you ask that because every single January I will be sitting at home in freezing cold weather thinking about how wonderful it is in the summer and I love it, and never once do I think of a mosquito. So I couldn't tell you what they were like, because you don't think about mosquitoes unless you're in the middle of mosquitoes in that moment. So I suspect that they were fierce. I don't know. Yeah. And like every January, I don't remember one thing about a mosquito in July because it's freezing cold. There's no mosquitoes.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Non-issue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, so what else do you think about Harpswell itself? Like how, not necessarily, what you love, but like what are some characteristics since you've lived in so many other places in Maine?
Well, Harpswell, the traditional Harpswell is, I think, a very caring, conservative community. Many church suppers, many chicken barbecues, many beanhole suppers, Grange breakfasts, and they have suppers, and there's a good sense of community within the core of what Harpswell is. My grandmother Sparks was in the Garden Club. They were a huge political powerhouse back in the day. The Garden Club ruled a lot. So I think families that have been here for a long time really feel the pride of where they came from and what Harpswell has been in their whole life. In spite of the newcomers coming in and all the fancy houses and all this and that, up until COVID, we still had church suppers, chicken barbecues, the Grange breakfasts, beanhole suppers, not as much, but if somebody gets sick, someone's going to bring food to their house. There's just people still kind of keep an eye out for each other, for the most part, which is admirable. I love that part of Harpswell. Did you not
see that as much in the other towns?
Well, I didn't get as immersed into that part, so I didn't see it, perhaps because of my own not getting involved. But in Harpswell, you didn't have to get involved. It was just there, So, and we're spread out. The peninsula is 15 or so miles from one end to the other. I can see the temperature change 5 to 6 degrees just on my way home from Bath to Harpswell, go down and then back up again in the wintertime because of just the variation of. But I remember the old traditional Harpswell Center versus West Harpswell versus South Harpswell versus North Harpswell, and it was a series of villages. So West Harpswell and North Harpswell were different than South Harpswell. The people were slightly different, But if you all went to town, everybody was from Harpswell. So you might be rivals down here, but when you're out and about in other towns, you're all from the same place. Mm-hmm. So, and I'm, again, not having lived here for a period of time, but coming back, I don't think that's changed a whole heck of a lot, to be honest with you. I mean, for the people that have grown up here, they still have that, oh, I remember so-and-so, oh, yeah, and everybody knows everybody still.
Yeah, that's really true.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my husband spent all his summers on oars, and it's amazing how many people he's reconnected with since we look back that haven't left, or like you had left and came back.
Yeah.
But like with grocery shopping and stuff, do you notice now? I mean, people go once a week into the Hannaford, but when you were a kid, your mom would go once a week into the Hannaford, right?
Well, first we would go to the IGA.
The IGA,
because that was closer and it was right down the road from my grandmother's house. Mm-hmm. But I can't believe how small that store was. As a kid, it didn't seem that small. But yeah, it was Saturday morning, you pack up and you go to Brunswick, and that's the only time you went to Brunswick was Saturday morning, and then you come home and you're in Harpswell for the rest of the week. I'm up and down that Harpswell road 2-3 times every day now. So, and I go grocery shopping every other day, except now that the pandemic I've cut back to once a week or even less than that, which seems worse when you get all your groceries at the same time, because it's $150 for this, but you spend $20-$30 every day. It's like, doesn't seem that bad. So yeah, so for me, the pandemic has made me go into the store a lot less, but it's much more like when I was a kid. You go in once a week, you get it done, and you're out of there.
Well, that's the other thing. It really has kind of made some things come full circle. People playing cards more and not relying on outside entertainment.
You say playing cards. Down at the camp, no electricity. My grandmother and her sisters would play competition solitaire. So they were playing on it. Oh my God, these women would not talk, and the viciousness of slamming cards down. Oh my God. So I got to learn how to play several different kinds of solitaire, and we play lots of board games. We played Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
And if I was just playing with my grandmother, mine and alone, and I got sorry, I would say, I don't want to send you back. And she's like, oh, it's part of the game. You need to send me back. And I'm like, but I don't want to. So she made me send her back, and it was just so upsetting because I loved my grandmother, and it was like, why am I doing this? But then later on, I caught my mother cheating at checkers against my stepson. So I'm like, that's my mother? What? So, but we just played a lot of games because we didn't have electricity. You know, during the summer you had to do something else. Whether it's cards or games or read a book.
What a great thing to learn as a kid, though.
Oh, yeah.
When you see kids today with all the electronics.
Solitaire, I can play on my phone, but no, you need a deck of cards to play solitaire.
You need that snap. You know, you need
Yeah,
that little
and
snap.
cribbage, you know.
Oh, yeah.
You gotta play cribbage.
God. Well, you still play cribbage? You still play cards?
Nobody wants to play cribbage with me because they lose all the time.
Too
so
good.
that's just I'm too good.
You got to cheat the other way.
Yeah, no, maybe not.
Well, we're almost ready to wrap.
Okay.
So, what last thoughts do you have on both growing up in Harpswell and living here now?
Well, I think growing up was easier because as a kid you don't have so much on your mind. But if you can clear your mind and just sit on the deck, because we're all behind on porch sitting, if you just sit on the deck and you enjoy what's going on around you, and you get right back to the way it was when you were a kid. Harpswell is too beautiful to be upset in. You know, if you're going to be all cranky, go to Brunswick and come back to Harpswell. You just calm down and you start feeling better because Harpswell is magical. There'll never be another place like it.
That's great. David, thank you so much.
Hey ho, roll and go around Cape Horn to San Francisco. Shantyman, sing, boys, pull on the line, and we're back in record time. Now at Bath down in Maine, they built many tall ships. They were paired up and flanked and launched down the slips. The strength of our nation was built on the pine of the mast trees that harnessed the wind. There were schooners and sloops and all kinds of small craft. There were warships with cannon both forward and aft, and the queens of the seas, downeasters and clippers, mighty proud men were their skippers. With their hey-ho roll